Well, hello traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little. This is your daily Neoclassical TA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a Neoclassical perspective. It's a model I created, used for about a decade now. It gives me a heads up, and anyone that cares to learn it, which is what we do, is we teach how to trade, how to invest using the Neoclassical model here at TA Today. And that model has served me well throughout the last decade plus to miss the big bear markets, to participate in most of the up markets. And as you see me call these markets day by day, you see me using that neoclassical theory. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel L.A. Little. And if you want to subscribe and you haven't, you just reach up in the right-hand corner, do so. Anytime I push public content, you'll get a notification. As far as what happened with these markets today, let's take a look at the numbers. We were down again. You actually had some heavier selling starting to come into this market. You know, commodities have been getting beat up. Well, today they got beat up even more. And look at what happened to the oil index. OIL, one of the ETFs, oil got smacked pretty good today. They took a big hit. Bonds down as well. So you got broad selling across all your commodities. You had Asia down, you had Europe flat, and you had our markets trade lower, with the exception of the NASDAQ, the NDX. And so markets trading to the downside, and the big one again, the Russell, and we'll look at that one. Russell led us up, Russell wants to lead us back down. Let's take a look at the charts here. We're going to pop into the S&P 500 to start with. Pull that over a little bit. And so what do we got here? 5 days of down, folks, and we haven't seen that since I can remember. I mean, I know we've had 2 or 3 down before, right? 2 or 3 down. But this is just pretty much straight away, off the top. The blow, off the top, right, on the speech, ever since then down. And you're starting to get those dark candles that I talked about. You had one here, you had another one today. And dark candle is where you see those people that want to sell, willing to sell right up into the close. They take control of the tape and they control it during the day. I believe I pointed this out, but just in case I didn't, I'll point it out again. And that is last week you got the over-under, right? So volume expands, the bar before, the next bar is lower, you go over, you back under. That usually says you're going to get a pullback the next bar. That's what you're seeing right now on the weekly. Just a couple more days here for the week. Tomorrow you got Draghi, and that is all about what happens with the currencies. We'll look at that next. But before we pop over there, let's look at the NASDAQ, the NDX. Again, they push higher, they do dojis, they leave long tails. Those are not good signs. NDX, same thing. Right, a little bit better, a little bit more of a body to them, but they end on the lows. And then, of course, the Russell. Now, the Russell straight away to the downside, candle after candle, dark candles. This thing has given up all of its bullish retest regens. Remember, we started over here. We gave that one up yesterday. Today, what do? We give up more of them. There's another one here that blows away. You've got this one that blows away. In other words, all those areas where you would think you'd find support, you don't. Again, this Russell keeps pushing to the downside. You got one more left. The bottom of it is the bottom of this area here, which is the heavier green markings. If you don't find some support there, something serious is happening to the downside. I do expect you're going to see this thing try to make a turn tomorrow. If we look over at the currencies, because I think that's where you're going to see the fireworks if you see them. Let's start with the dollar. The dollar, all important. If we draw that chart, what we have here is an attempt to push back to the top side. Now, it's not that easy to see it on this particular time frame. And again, when I'm looking at this ETF, I don't pay quite as close attention because it's a proxy. Of course, we have the Forex market, so we don't have a good way of telling where this is or isn't going to go. your ABCD structure does point to new highs on this time frame. And what I'm going to show you here is on the monthly chart, right? You had a huge move to the top side. That big move to the top side, right, straight away, unsustainable, right? We always talk about that. So what does it look like now? Well, it's still pretty steep, but becoming much more sustainable. 45-degree angle is a lot better. We're not there yet. This thing could trade sideways for a while longer, but it's starting to look more and more like this thing's going to try to break out of this top. And in other words, we've got this big range. It's basically, I'll call it up to there. Inside of it, you kind of got this other range that's inside of it. You can see how we're in the top half of that and holding. That's slowly building a case to break this out to the top side. If and when that happens, you're going to see a big move in these markets. And if we turn our attention to some of those markets that are already showing that, look at your base metals here, right? These markets trying to give it up, right? They just broke a swing point low here, another one today, there's another one below it, there's another one below that. Of course, all that just brings it back into the bullish retest regenerate zone, and that's where it got tonight. 1584, that price point 1584 is what it hit. What you can expect is an attempt to bounce this, and this will be a good one to watch because this one is going to have a lot of pressure to try to bounce. But the probabilities are very high. This is neoclassical probabilities. Your probabilities are 90% plus that you're going to get at least sideways, but more likely some sort of a bounce out of this on this time frame. Could be just a couple bars, maybe more. If you go over here though, this is the part that's starting to get interesting, right? Because again, you had one of those unsustainable moves, in terms of directional move. Now it's more sustainable, right? It's coming back into something much more sustainable. As part of doing that, it's doing a retest regen, and because it did it within 6 bars, you got to expect the bottom third is where it's going to try to test to. And so even if we get the bounce over there on that daily, you got to expect this thing's going to try and trade even lower before it's over. That's showing the effect of the dollar strength in an area that has seen a significant upside as a result of the whole Trump reflation trade. Look elsewhere though. I mean, let's go to the continuous commodity index. Look at how this thing's trading. You've broken swing point highs. In other words, the bullish retest regens on the general commodities, not just the base metals, has taken a hit, came down, tested here, got its bounce, tested again, couldn't hardly bounce, third time blows it away. And that's because the probabilities are like 30% on the third time. If you move this to a weekly, what is it doing over here on the weekly? Well, again, you're coming down, you're testing into what ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4 swing point lows on the weekly time frame. And you're shooting down there fast. You break all of these, you're going to see a faster move to the downside in the general commodities. And a big part of the weighting here, of course, is the oil market. And so what we're seeing is the effect of strengthening dollar weighing against the various commodities, and in this case, the general commodity market. If we pull up out of curiosity here, let's pull up the monthly chart. Here's the monthly, so you can see the big bounce, right, sideways. Is it going to come down and test this again after a big move down, right? The general trend here still is to the downside. Even that big bounce didn't change that, folks. So commodities still look like a death trap, general commodities. Okay, so tomorrow, what do we expect tomorrow? I didn't go through the major sectors. Let me quickly show you that. In a bunch of these, you still have some of these holding up pretty well. Now, here's the consumer discretionary. If we look at that one, you can see that one's holding at the highs. If you look at the healthcare, even with the Trump tweet yesterday. That one's trying to bounce back. But if you go, and actually there's another one that's the big one, which is technology still holding. But if you go elsewhere, look at financials. Tries to push up today and ends up doing a bearish engulfing by the end of the day. Dark candle, not a good thing. Look at that energy market. We were just talking about the oil market. Look at the blowout there as it blows away 2 swing point lows. Look at the basic materials. We were just talking about those. Big push up, closes on the lows. Sellers take control. Look at the real estate market. Big one underneath the swing point low. The swing point highs low, which was the bullish retest, regenerate. Folks, over and over again, we're seeing more and more of the market shifting gears. Tops are process. They take time. You see some of it give it up, you're going to get a bounce out of this, right? The bounce is going to come. But you're seeing more and more of the sectors slowly give it up, and that's what tells you that the character of the market is changing. So finally, shifting back to what tomorrow brings, if we pull the S&P back up here and look at it, what are we doing? We're coming into an area that probably is going to get bought. And that's this support zone that you see here in the green. It's not a heavy one, but it's probably going to be enough. It's probably going to be enough because you've got tech still holding, which is the NDX and the NASDAQ. Even though those are showing signs of weakness, they're still holding. You've got enough sectors holding. You have the Russell pushing down hard, but at this point, the Russell has done this kind of a move to the downside. It's going to get a bounce. This is probably going to bounce as well. And then we're going to see these things probably fail as they move back up. And you're going to get A, B, C, D structures to the downside. So if you just take this one and map it out, some sort of a move back up into here, and then an A, B, C, D down is probably what you're going to see. That's the way it's shaping up from my view. Have yourself a great one. If you want to learn how to trade, you can write me, TAT@ta8day.com. Take care. Good night. See you next time.